You got to go through it again. It's so fucked. And we got a little gap down in the market today. It doesn't feel like much. Didn't really, there's some job stuff and, all this blah, 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 blah. So traders will be weighing jobless claims, which came at 229,000 compared to 202,000, which is like all just like a big fucking nothing burger. So the main thing to like really think about when we're kind of looking at the market right now is that, we are in basically a big kind of 1.5 week or 2 weeks, we can call it range, right? And so range trading is different than trend trading. So what I mean by range trading versus trend trading is right when you are right kind of climbing up your EMAs in a recognizable way, either up or down. So when you're trend trading, essentially, what happens is you can do breakouts if the uptrend is higher, right? So you can do breakouts and then pullbacks to breakout spots. And right, you're doing essentially momentum trading techniques. And to the downside, you can do the same thing, right? You can short breakdowns and you can even, there'll be so much range to the downside, you can chase down shorts, right? So you can do like ORBs and, you can literally chase things down just a tad on an intraday basis. Your entries don't have to be like picture perfect. But then what happens is, so when you get into a range, then that changes. And so your pure like momentum techniques that you would be using when the market is trending act vastly different. And so what ends up happening is you get a little bit more shakeouts, you get a little bit more double lutsies in terms of, like, hey, this looks good, and then it becomes bad. So when you're stuck in a range, what often happens is you're more into a buy low, sell high, short high, cover low scenario, right? You're trading essentially inside a range. So what happens is like when you're like in this kind of like range that we've been in now for 10 days, you'll see strength and like you'll start to see it, right? Like hang, and then it dumps off. And you'll see that like quite a bit. Like, you saw this even a couple of days ago, right? Like you'll have like what looks like strength and then you'll roll over, right? And, that'll happen in the, in the general markets too, where you'll see strength and then it'll roll over. But then like you see like this weakness, so like in a momentum, more of a momentum type of market, right? If you saw like a gap down, you would be doing an ORB to the short side, right? Like you'd be chasing down the shorts. But because we're stuck in this range, when we open weak, we're going red to green. But when we open high, right, we're fading off till that range resolves itself. And so that's just something to kind of keep into, the back of your heads as you kind of are like trying to navigate this. Now, the interesting part of what's been happening in the market beyond, okay, so the larger kind of cap stocks are more, right, like just matching the QQQs. And so you can see, right, they all look very, very similar. Like they're just like the QQQs, right? So your large cap stocks are kind of just marinating and doing that same type of thing just as the QQQ. So you're in a range here, like see Microsoft looks the same, NVIDIA looks the same, you look the same, everything looks the same. Now, the interesting part of what's happening in this current market of the last week or so is that even though we're stuck in this kind of range in the large cap stocks and the mega kind of cap stocks and the tech index in general, we are seeing sectors and small sprouts, speculation coming into the market. And that's really, really good. And that tells you that there's at least some kind of semblance of health or, spec money coming back into the market. So what I mean by that is like, even though the indexes are right staying the same, like you're starting to see, right, like some small caps starting to peek its head, which you need to see, like like you're starting to see this kind of action, which you wouldn't have saw like a month ago, right? Where it actually holds and there's like some follow through. And so that's interesting. So we're starting to see a little bit of a perk in spec names, small cap names, mid cap names. So that is something to, just keep a general focus on. We starting to see, right, generally some really nice bottoming trends like set up in China stock, right? Like, this BABA's up 50%. This is a $300 billion company, but this is a 40, 50% the last few days, so you're starting to see that, right? Like, so these China names, right? See, this is $37, it's almost double. So even though the indexes have flattened out and we're essentially just engaging in some kind of range trading game with the indexes, there are peaks and sectors that are holding and even starting to show some level of leadership. And so that is something that's really, I think, a positive for the market. Now, does that mean like the bear market is over? No, not at all. But if you look at like any bear markets of the last, so many times, like we've seen the market dump, there will be, squeezes in the market that can last for weeks. Even in 2008, like there were periods like where the market dumped. Most of the market would dump in like a month, but then there were like months where you like grinded along or even like slowly kind of grinded higher. And then, you could start off the dump again. So, we don't know yet if what's going to happen, because right now, all we know is that we had a 3-day push. We had 3 fucking day push, which is nothing. And then we've had 2 weeks of just kind of this grind. I wouldn't say 2 weeks, but it'd be up, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 days, almost 2 weeks, right? 10 business days is 2 weeks. 8 days of grind. And when we see this kind of level materialize, then that'll be something that'll be important. On a short-term basis of price action, right, we did see the market try to actually break below this level a couple days ago, and it completely reversed. So that's bullish. At least there's some support being defended. But the last couple days, indexes have been weak. So we have an interesting kind of dichotomy of there's some sectors that are hot, but the majority, the major index is just kind of showing nothing burger. But this is like your market breadth. So this is like more important than what's showing in the indexes. So this is your percentage of stocks over its 200-day moving average, right? We went from a low of 18 to 30 almost. That's really good. The T21088, which is a little bit more important for us because we're shorter term traders. And so this measure of market breadth really is more focused towards the people that are doing short-term trading or even holding stocks based on pure momentum for 3, 4, 5, 6 days. So this went from an extreme oversold level of 11 to now like you're in the 40s to 50s, which is actually a significant rise in market breadth, right? The percentage of stocks above your 40-day moving average. So that's showing at least like, hey, we've got some healthy stuff happening here, and some big constructive bases that are holding up. So these are different things that just kind of keep an eye on. Let's take a look at the earnings plays, and then let's see if we can find a little doohickey over here. So this is like untradeable. Like when these things just pop up, like this is most likely right here, just like a chat room pump. Those are untradeable. This is the short natural gas ETF. So look, natural gas had a little bit of a blunkin yesterday. I didn't see the news on it, but that's like a big fall. So we may want to, and then we're getting a slight gap down today, not a slight 5% gap down. So we may want to look at some natural gas plays to potentially short. I did finally do some Googling and made a list of so these are like the 15 biggest natty gas names. Some of them are obviously like the biggest ones are fucking Exxon, but there's a lot of independent ones over here too. So we can take a look here and let's see if there's maybe something to take down. So if you look and see like what's been up the most the last 90 days, right? This EQT is like the biggest out of the kind of independent natty gas companies. It doesn't do that much volume, but it does enough. Like it's at 5-6 million shares a day, which is more than enough. So this is, possibly something that could roll over. You can see a lot of these are fucking pretty extended. So if this natty UNG dumps, then, look, see this Oxy starting to roll over. Like, look, this fucking thing gets our 20 SMA. We've got room to fall down into the 50 where it tends to get a little bit of traction. So I think this is, we don't want to, If it pops up a little bit at the open, I think this is probably top of the list, the fucking takedown, downtown Julie Brown. EOG, like another one, right? Like this has a pretty steep uptrend for like a huge company the last few days. This is going to be something. This is something that could work too. CLR. CHKH, Chesapeake, BP. I'll send you this list if you guys want. See this thing? This looks like it's really on the cusp here. You know, the main thing is like, you know, we want to make sure, of course, that it's got liquidity, and it does. It's been doing about 5, 6, 7 million shares. So more than enough to actually take down. So I think that's probably like something like this. Oxy. I think that's, you know, where we can go with these things. We need the liquidity, obviously. Let's add that. A Siggy Bear, Signet Jewelers. Okay, so Siggy Bear, Signet Jewelers, fiscal, blah, 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 adjusted earnings, increase, rise. Hey, 'tis the season with the markets like starting to show a little bit more speculative fervor. I think that this is probably something we can play. We've also had a history playing this back in the day on earnings season. It's plus it's got a cool name, Siggy Bear. Like I think that's something. I think that's something we probably want to play, especially if we can kind of. It needs to get over this 50-day moving average. If you can do that, let's add that. That's a nice little possible earnings play. AVCL junk. These are all inverse ETFs. Tesla market chatter. Tesla's China production decline this quarter said to be potentially worse than expected. Market chatter. Tesla reportedly sold 32,000 China-made vehicles in May. Well, ain't that fucking nice? So the main reason it's actually gapping up is you got a upgrade from UBS, it looks like. Insider sales, blah, blah, blah. And by the way, like, you know, on your TC2000, like keep a tab for upgrades. When you see like, you know, I go through it like just like really briefly in the mornings, but like you always want to look and see like if there's any of the kind of major names, right, that are catching the upgrades, like things that, you know, we would be playing, like, you know, some of these random shit like won't matter, but you know, like a lot of times if it's like an AMD or NVIDIA or whatever, an SQ, a Mongo Bongo, right, and you get like a big upgrade, but the main thing is like if you get a series of them, that's when it gets hot. You know, like one upgrade is okay, but like usually when you get a series of them, sometimes you'll see like a coordinated kind of thing where you get like 3 or 4 or 5 in a row from different companies on a particular you know, on a particular stock. That's when you can really, that's when you can really get going. Like, see, this 5 has numerous of them today. So like that's something, right, to keep like an eye on, because like this fucking thing just had like a whole bunch of them. So now like you're starting to see, right, like there's a lot of these people downgrading the shit out of this thing, right? So it's adjust below, adjust below, adjust below, adjust below, right? So like that could put pressure on a particular name, and then same type of thing to the upside. So, and it doesn't take long if you just go through and fucking, you know, you can always like just kind of click and see if there's like a particular, you know, like you can just click on the individual name too. And once you see if anything are coming, to see how many of them fucking come in hot, right? You start to see 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of these things come in hot. That's something to just kind of keep an eye on. It's like, you know, you don't make a trade based off it, but like it's something to keep in the back of your mind. Like, hey, this could have, you know, some juice up or down if need be. Let's get back into this. So Tesla pop upgrade, you can see you have a little bit of a rounding kind of pattern on this, but it's following just the QQQs. Like it's not necessarily, you know, it's not necessarily a momentum thing. Like it's just following the kind of the QQQs over here. Look at the fucking float on this fucking thing. They'll probably split it again soon. Junk, 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 junk. Junk. You know, and one thing, you know, I kind of actually like doing sometimes is like, you know, just when sometimes look at the inverse ETFs and, you know, the leverage ones. you might start to see like it gives you like a different perspective on seeing the indexes. Like, for example, like, we see like a little bit of flagging right on the QQQs. But then if you look at like, the short QQQ inverse ETF, it gives you a little bit different perspective where this also looks bullish, right? Like it's also bottoming, and like you can kind of see like if it kind of pushes through here, that actually looks hot. So like even though you're thinking like the QQQs might look hot, this gives you a different way of looking at it that says like, hey, you know what, that QQQ index may actually not look hot. It could be looking heavy, right? And it gives you just I always like to look at the inverse ETFs just to see like, sometimes we can, train our brain or trick our brain into looking at things, based on our biases, right? So like sometimes like looking at like these kind of like inverse ETFs, it just gives you a different perspective on it, because like if they start to look hot and you're thinking the actual index looks hot and the inverse looks hot, then you really fucked yourself, right? Like you're not looking at something right, and it tells you to do a little bit of a deeper dive into kind of what's going on over here. So that's also tells me, this is like telling me something here. Like, I'm thinking like those Qs look so hot, but I actually I could be wrong. I very well fucking could be wrong. FTNT, let me take a look. This is all junk. All right, let's take a look on the gappers on the downside, see if we got anything. Hey, this fucking Billy, bastards, ruin all the fucking fun. Billabong, adjusted loss widens as revenue rises, issues Q2 revenue outlook. These China stocks have had a really nice run. We've been trading them every day, and this fucking Billy's trying to ruin it. Let's keep an eye on it today. All the China stocks are weak, probably because of the fucking Billy, but let's keep an eye on it. We may have to, we'll see how it acts. We may have to fucking short this piggy at some point. I'm not sure if we do though yet, because it's like resting on the 9. Let's add it for now. Zoom, NIO adjusted loss widens, revenue rises. So this got earnings too. Let's add this to the list. Hey, this 5 trade's fucking too thin to really even. I like the overall look of trying to take this thing down. It trades really thin. I don't know if it's got that juju for us in terms of liquidity. Like, can you get any size? The main thing, like, you always want to ask yourself on like something like this, like 5, right, is like, if I needed to, and I wouldn't normally, most likely you'd probably trade, say, 500 shares or something like that. But like a stock like this, like you always need to ask yourself, like, because if it's hot enough, right? Would I be able to get 3, 4, 5,000 shares short on this, right? With minimal slippage and stuff like that, in case it turns into something real hot, and you probably just can't on something like that. So it's not really worth the time. So Lee's going down based on NIO, XPEV also going down, time to a round. So all these China stocks are weak, but these could just be like rest days, inside days. We don't necessarily know, but there are 2 that have earnings, right? We have NIO and Billy, and those are probably the ones that we'll have to keep an eye on. Like, look, if this Billy like rests it holds at the 90 EMA, and it very well could, and you start to see even like half of this gap fill, that'd probably be pretty bullish for these China stocks. Yeah, I think we're going to want to keep all these China stocks on watch today. There was some other news that based on BABA that, the government's not going to, rework their anti-IPO. So the rumor had been that BABA was going to be allowed to do this spin-off IPO the last couple of days. And then it came out today. They're like, whoa, we're not going to be doing that. So that's also creating some pressure on BABA besides Billy's earnings and stuff like that. That's putting the juice on the Chinese markets. We'll see if Baba gets bought up today. Then the bottom is in on these fucking things like for a while. Obviously you can see the liquidity that was coming through on this yesterday. Baba gets bought up today. Like if this thing goes red to green today, then right, the bottom is in on these things, and then we'll need to kind of come in and rope a dope on all of these. So watch Baba as the tell, and we'll see like what's going on. If this thing just gets bought up, then we know like, okay, it's game time on these. And if that happens, we'll be fucking probably trading those things for fucking months. EDU, like, when EDU's going, that's when you know. Right? When EDU is going, that's when you know. But you see, these are like beautiful bases. So hopefully this Baba doesn't take them down, so we have something to trade for the next couple months. Butt plug. Piper assumes plug power at neutral. What's that? Indo. Dun, 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 dun. Good. Yeah, I think SIG is probably, SIG is going to be a 6 windows. The issue on SIG is this 50-day moving average, and then we'll see like what's going on this thing. It's got a pretty low float. Like this thing can actually, move around pretty good. We'll see like what's going on. I keep just ticker. You don't need to keep like the actual, chart up. But like just know like your prices, like I use this scrolling thing on TC1000, but like you could right, like you could keep just as like a scrolling ticker of these things if you want. But I keep just like the price of UNG up, like so you start to see like it's probably bounce a little bit at the open, but that's something to kind of keep an eye on too. That shit. Cares about gold anymore. There. Now that's a much better index list, right? Probably restart that fucking thing. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, so I usually just keep something like that up, so at least I know, like, all right, this thing is popping or dropping. All right, so we'll see what's going on. If this dip on the Qs gets bought up, then it's off to the races, right? We've got rounding patterns on Roblox and fucking Bookface, and all these things have been shown like some relative strength. We can hit all this shit. What we need is just to make sure, that this range actually holds. And the dips have been getting bought up. Like we've gone red to green now a couple times. See this red to green, this day red to green. So we don't necessarily know that this market's going to roll just because we capped down. We've gone red to green the last couple times, and we'll see kind of what's going on today. But the ZM, Roblox, like all these got the nice kind of bottoming patterns here. Ew. That's just nasty. So we got Oxy, Siggy Bear. Remember, we got NIO for earnings too. CLR. And this Oxy this could dump off at the open. Good. And let's watch these China stocks. Let's see if we go red to green on these little piggies. If we do, then, that's what we're playing for the day. Mr. Bex, man, where you fucking been? How you doing, brother? Hey, by the way, I think Facebook changed its, does it go to Meta today from FB? Yes, Maz has got a level here too. If it gets under, I would say this 55 zone, it could very well just MPC to the downside real fast. Good. All right, let's have some fun today, folks.